Hello, welcome to this level 3 video. My name is Allie with A. Speaks, and this is a part of my energetic systems series. This is going to be video 2 of 3. And so if you haven't seen video 1 yet, I'll have that linked in the description, down in the comments somewhere for everyone to check out. Because the 3 videos I'm making here, I'm hoping to just do quickly and just to talk in segments about the 3 pieces that make us up: our inner systems, our body, body, mind, and spirit, right? Is kind of what I'm talking about with the 3 here. The video 1, we talked about the body, and I went into what is the external systems, what the physical body vessel is. I talked just a little bit about the body boss and how we can talk to the body boss. In this video, we're going to talk about the mind. And similarly, we will talk about the boss of the mind and the makeup of the mind as a system as a whole. And then follow part 3, right? And we'll talk about the spirit. For this second video on the mind, it's important to know that, as I said with the body, right? The body in this triad is the representation of the masculine, actionary, externally based energies. And of course, we know our body, we use our body to do everything. Our body is the actionary piece of us, right? So it fits the mold very well there. But then also when we dive into it, we realize there's many reflections within that. Same thing with the mind here. The mind is the representation of the inner workings. It's the more feminine of the energies, and it's all about the internal systems. And yes, they are all internal systems, because us as the whole, we're looking at just the inner systems right now. So keep that in mind as well, right? Everything is layered, everything is reflected, and everything is modeled in the same templates and workings. And so once you understand the flow, and hopefully as we get through looking through these 3 types, we'll get more of understanding about what the reflections and the templates really are, right? But for the mind, particularly, when we look at it between the 3, it holds the role in the space as that shadow, dark, feminine aspect, the inner workings. And when we look at the system as a whole, and we want to look at just what the mind's world is all about, right? We see that it is an electric energy that is being worked with in this world, this reality. The mind boss is all about the processing of information, the processing of data, how you think, literally, how you process your thoughts, how you process every bit of input and output that your system is involved with on this electric, energetic, information-based layer. And again, I just will reiterate, all 3 of these layers work together. There is co-creation and commingling. They really, like a marbling effect, you know what I mean? They come together to create the artwork. But for now, what we're doing is just segmenting and just looking at sections of it, so that we can better understand it as a whole when we look at it as a whole. So when we think about the mind, sometimes there can be a lot of these sort of conceptions that the mind's the most important, that the brain runs the whole body, and that it isn't conversations that are happening, but it's a top-down hierarchy of orders that are given. And to place yourself inside such strict parameters that would say that even on an unconscious, subconscious level, your entire being is a model of hierarchy of the negative agenda, and that it operates within the rules of negative systems, i.e. top-down hierarchy, a flow of directionality within communication that is restricted, maintained, and forced. That in itself is unfair. It's incorrect. It's contorting your eternal infiniteness and forcing it to take a specific presentation. And that's really unfair to do to yourself. So as we get into these things, and maybe you noticed when we did the body boss and we were doing some work with the body, that you kind of feel like you step into it with this mind, with this, the mind being at the top of the pyramid, and then we have the body and the spirit. And this is really societal. It is a nature and nurture kind of things. It is philosophical. It is sociological. It is psychological. And at the end of the day, it is all propaganda and lies, is what it really is. All three of our bosses really maintain the same sovereign place, and they're all on the equal levels. And so working to get them all together at the sovereign table might be step one. And having a lot of interactions with the others, with the body and the spirit, is really going to help the mind learn how to listen. Learn how to sit at the table with everyone else and understand that others do have important input. And this is a metaphor, but this is very real, because so many of us are jammed into this archonic structure and belief system that says that the brain is the boss, and the brain sends all of these things and makes you talk, and that your brain tells your body what to do. And that's a very shallow surface level picture, and it's missing a lot of the important details, which is that no, it's not telling anything what to do. It's having a conversation. It's actually listening and responding is what's happening. It's cyclitic. It's not A to B, B to A, A to B, B to A. It's A, B, A, B, A, B, B, A, B, A, A, B. It doesn't matter which one is first, and they're all happening at the same time. So working there first, and even trying to wrap your mind around that and sort of knocking the pedestal of that mind boss down a few notches is a lot of people's first steps. I really thought myself and used to think that working with the mind first was the most beneficial, especially from my pre-setting. I came from very mind-controlled, academia white coat, fed carrot on a stick nonsense out there in science worlds, and thought that I knew everything, and thought that the connect the dots picture that they were showing was real, and that the one that they had outlined was the only picture available. But come to find out, you can make whatever picture and connect the dots you want. You don't have to follow their sequential flow. And in fact, nature doesn't follow their inorganic, forced sequential flow. It has its own organic sequential building that happens, growth, exploration of manyness. That is much different than pre-assigned sequential 1 through 5 steps. But the mind is tricky. The boss, that mind's boss, especially if it's been pumped up with its ego head growing and growing, being fed out there, with a lot of the misinformation that happens in the academia world, in universities, and in the medical realm, in all life sciences, even in physical sciences. Like there's a lot of false belief structures that they have pinned in the ground out there, that their fence posts, they're saying that's the only way to go the road, but it's not true. But for many of us, and myself included, I had to go and explore the whole valley and the field, and in the mountains to even realize, oh my gosh, look at this silly little fenced-in walkway they've got us all walking on, thinking that that's the only way to go. But I say all of this, right? I'm rambling a bit around the block here, but I'm saying that to say that when we go to the mind first and we try to sort problems out using the mind when they're already beefed up on steroids, quote unquote, you're not going to be a good listener. You're not going to be a productive partner when you're going into forcing things. And for me, when I came at it in that way first, now looking back on it, hindsight, right, it was a beating around the bush for me. And it was a lot of circles and liar loops of all of these thoughts and tricks in my brain that actually didn't want to listen to, take into account, or change direction based on what my spirit was saying, based on what actually my body's input was saying, But the mind was so strong that I found myself time after time re-looped in and blocking out the body, blocking out the spirit, and going with the mind. And not much healing can really happen. A lot of spiritual bypassing can happen in that realm, but not a lot of healing, not a lot of truth happens there. I found more truth and more healing when I got into my body, when I started to do a lot of body work. And yes, for me specifically, I grew up through traumatic things, and I learned a lot about disassociation and blocking, and I spent many years with cognitive behavioral therapies, learning how to associate again with my body in that really corralled medical realm. And yeah, some of those things did work and helped me along the way. But what has really helped me was getting with the body's boss and allowing and listening and learning how I had built this pillar up and given this bullhorn microphone to my mind's boss. And then no wonder I couldn't hear or didn't even want to listen to the body's boss and the spirit's boss, because they have no built-up pillar. They had no microphone. They're just doing their own thing. They're just living their life and speaking normally the way that they would for whoever cares to listen. And but the mind didn't care to listen at that point, right? But getting into the body and allowing, just segregating the systems and listening there, I was able to create more of that capacity to hear and to listen to myself. And that really built a beautiful bridge, and that helped me to bring up and to get everybody at the same table, and to be able to do some work with the mind here and to be like, hey, actually you don't know everything. Get off your high horse here, have a little cake of humility and eat it up, because you are not everything. You're not that great, and you don't know everything. And hey, in fact, your little human brain isn't even meant to know everything. It doesn't even have the spectrum available to it to see the multidimensionality of Source. You can only see what you're meant to, and you can only be a part of what you're meant to at this limited, focused in range of first-person view. And as I accepted that, I found a way to quiet the mind and a way to say, oh, wow, there really is three whole separate things going on here. There really is, a body that takes care of the body. There really is a mind that takes care of the mind things, the electric things, the impulses. The body takes care of, right, those material, carnal things, those magnetic things, things with weight and tangibility that happen within you. And there really is the spirit, this other thing, this totally unspeakable, untouchable flow that happens, and that is coagulating and is interpreting things for me. And that is totally different than the mind and data processing and the processing power. Intuition and imagination are what happen through the spirit. And also the same thing with learning through my body's the body boss. I learned so much through my spirit's boss as well, about connecting to imagination space and being unlimited, and how that really, the co-creations, the communications between the mind, the processing, the information, the storing and pulling of data points and sets, how that works hand in hand and can really be amplified and really find beautiful artwork when we allow the intuition and imagination to speak with the mind and to help the mind along. So we'll get into more of that when we talk more about the spirit, and then when I bring it back to the three, and we'll get back about talking to how all of them kind of go together. But here for video 2 in the mind, what I wanted to just go over quickly is the way that we can tap into the mind, right? Most of us know about meditation. Meditation is very helpful. There's so many different kinds, and like I said, I'm going to do meditations for each of these bodies and some different workings within them to come. But the sitting silent, the watching of the thoughts, the allowing thoughts to dissipate, the practices on mindfulness, on the present moment, unconscious breathing, those types of practices are really mind boss focused meditations. They will help you to understand you're an antenna and that there are out there in the waves information riding through you, and it's up to you what you pick up, and when you pick it up, how you interpret it, how you log it, how you process it, where it goes in your body. All of that's controlled by the mind's boss. It speaks, sends messages to the body's boss to hand off those things to the body to do the physical working of it. But the mind sets the path and it hands it off to the others, right? And in meditation, to just focus on the mind and focus on your thoughts, right? There is so many different practices and ways to do that. Quick, easy, beautiful one is just to visualize behind your eyelids as a clear day, clear blue sky, and then see what kind of clouds roll through. What are your clouds, you know? Are they happy, white, fluffy clouds passing by? Are they gray clouds? Are they black doom and gloom? Is there lightning? Is there a feeling of a storm collecting? Is there a feeling of a sweet summer breeze? You know, do you have high, wispy clouds? Are they low? All of those images are really your spirit and your body sending information through the mind, and the mind is interpreting it and telling you in a way that it feels that you can get it. And so if you can allow that working to happen and start to just give yourself space for that, that will really get you in touch with the mind. Another point to make, whether you like to call it like conscious living, some people call it mindfulness, some people call it conscious awareness, or I think there's something else a lot of people call it. Basically just living life awake, right? Being present in the present moment. That practice is all about the mind. It has a lot to do with the body too, and having great conversation with the sensory input from the body is really what's happening with the mind when we're mindful, when we're in presence, when we're feeling our way through our day, or through the moment, or through a thought, or an interaction. So picking up on the nuances of that sensory information coming up from the body into the brain, and how you choose to interpret it is a great focus to start on for practicing about the mind and getting in touch with the conversations that happen with the mind. Other great aspects of thinking, right? Discernment. This is a huge role of the mind's boss, because discernment takes a data set. it takes a varying set of statistics or points or input values, memories, thoughts, right? In order to gauge against, to weigh odds, to see and balance, right, between the messages, to see what is the truth, what is most prevalent, what is most possible, right? The mind will show you, and also this is a double-edged sword with the mind, right? As you're picking up and as you're learning to listen to it more and more, you will get a gauge for where's actually the mind's boss speaking from its light, from its love, and from positive intentions, and versus where is the shadow calling out, right? Where is the more needy, negative sort of overlay happening, okay? Because there's many things that happen inside the mind, and not all of them are yours. This is another thing that you will really get into once you start to read your truth meter, once you start to really get great conversations with all the bosses together. You'll start to realize that certain thoughts are not yours. Now, don't be nervous and don't allow this to push you off into some kind of realm of like psychiatry or feeling abnormal, and then you need to go out and seek some kind of label from their sacred DSM Bible. Who knows the truth of this reality? No one, right? So let's not go grasping at straws and poisoning ourselves for no reason. All right? Just because we hear thoughts that are not our own does not mean we are abnormal. In fact, we are normal because we are antennas, receiving and sending out all types of messages, all varying energetic spectrums, sound, light, ether, like all heat, all of these different things that we have names for and things that we don't even have names for yet. Metaphysical things, you know, all of those transactions are happening at all times, and it's very busy and it's very loud, and so a lot of things don't get noticed at first, right? But when you start to quiet your mind, and when you really start to delineate between all the bosses, and you start to be able to zone into these things and have conversations, these sort of propaganda little warning signs will hop out that will tell you, oh no, this is not of you, you're crazy. This is not of you, you're demonic. This is not of you, you must have some kind of alien technology implanted into you, you know? Let's not worry about external circumstances. Let's not worry about the great mystery of how we're all connected, because that's really out of the spectrum of conscious awareness that we're even allowed up to be a part of as humans, right? So understand that it's a joke, and that if you believe in faith and truth and God, then you know it's all for a higher good. And so why worry? There's no need to worry about how we'll all end up if you have true faith in the before and after. There's no mistake that cannot be corrected when we're here in the here and the now, not the before and the after space, right? So relax a little into that, and don't get so trapped in these sort of red flag things that people really want you to get wrapped up in. Just understand that you are an antenna, and there are lots of thoughts out there. There are collective thoughts, there are entity thoughts, there are different vibrations out there. They all can and do pass through you. And as you start to know your space, and as you start to claim your sovereign space, you will see them and hear them coming through. And it becomes a real test of your own sovereign faith. because you have to anchor in and know that you are a powerful being and that you choose what you absorb. You choose what you release and let go of. You choose what channel you're tuned to, hearing and receiving in, as well as you choose the channel that you speak from and that you allow data to flow out of. The mind can really start to notice what is yours and what is not yours. And it has a great backup sort of mechanism that will start to make all of these circumstances and make all of these reasons. And when you feel yourself doing that and tagging down, know that that is how the brain works. It's a processor. Its job is more internally based, and it is about holding, stagnating, and staying, stiller. It is a cup. It is the receiver. It's it's a negatively oriented system in itself. It's feminine. It draws in. And so, yeah, we do. We need to absorb. We need to draw in and collect information, process it, put it in the right internal places. But with that comes the letting go of things that are not ours, letting go of things that don't serve us, letting go of things that we've already learned and we don't need to explore again. And that part of the conversation is where learning about the mental mind and the boss will really, you'll be able to start flexing your muscles and learning about it and feeling it and getting a real conversation with the boss, because that's the boss's main job, right? Take in incoming electrical informational impulses, whether from the collective, from the external, or from the internal, taking them in and sending them where they need to go. And so when you get into more conversations with that boss and you can break it into managers, you'll understand, right? That, yeah, inside the mind, there's actually 3 bodies at work in itself. There's a whole body, the external toroidal of the mind, and that works with all of the external things. Every conversation you have with others, the words they have coming back at you, how their body language is interpreted, their energy, all those things are coming through and having conversation. The mind's managers here of external workings are taking in that kind of stuff and pushing out those kind of externally based processes about your information. We have the inner workings of the mind as well, and that's all about how you're processing that information. Are you allowing emotions and the spirit realm and the physical realm to get tied up with the thoughts, and then bam, you store them here? And then, another hurtful thing, and you let it get wrapped up in emotions and in your tight muscles of your body, and then bam, it gets stored again, and then you have this little clump that is diseased getting stored here, and then all of a sudden it's become sort of its own entity on its own because so much has been added to it. Then it wonders what it's doing. It starts to recreate and send out false instructions to build up another mutated area, and bam, you have cancers, quote unquote. This is if you can get into the mind, and the mind forefront will say, hey, don't wrap that thought up into those emotions. It doesn't align with your higher good, and you'll do some breath work and you'll get rid of it. Your spirit will take that stuff away. Your body will loosen up the muscles, and all of those inputs from those 2 workers will loosen up, and your mind will say, actually, no, I don't need to store that thing. Let it go, and it will go. And you will notice too, like the managers inside the mind will have better communication with each other. The third manager of the mind we didn't really talk about, but the flow, the spiritual manager of the mind, right? The one who is witnessing both interactions happening and helping them to co-communicate, helping the fluid exchange of the 2, and learning the lessons of that and storing the wisdom of that is what the third manager of the mind is doing, right? It is sort of like, okay, this part is important, that part's not as important, I got to work more on this, I don't need to work more on that. That spirit mind manager is also having conversation with your spirit of your spirit, the spirit of your body, the spirit of great spirit, right? All of those layers work together in the spirit realm. Yeah, they're more zoomed in lower levels of the spirit, but they are still have that direct connect to spirit. So as your mind is working through external processing and internal processing, the spirit mind is also looking at the work and how you're doing that work. Do you need more of it or not? And it's sending signals out to the spirit realm of the ether, to let them know, how you're doing. And we'll get into a little bit more about this after I introduce the spirit realm, and then we'll bring it back to how the three work and how all three come together to create your teredo, your polarity charge, your directionality, and all that. Excuse me. But for here, I'm going to leave it 30 minutes. I really have gone a little over time, but it has been a bit of an around the world ramble. So I thank you so much for your time and for sitting through this. I hope it has opened up just a little bit about what the mind really controls, what the mind's boss is really all about, and also helped us to sort of delineate between what is going to be imagination and intuition versus what is actually data processing and logging and mental algorithms and things that happen with electrical impulses that are not the same as being guided by divine intelligence. So yeah, I'll get into a little bit more when we talk about the spirit boss, and then any comments, any clarity that needs, confusion that needs sorting out, please leave comments or send me emails, and I'll be sure to reply or to add them into the videos in more nuanced explanations of descriptions of the three. But for now, I hope that this has given people just an idea of what the mind's boss and managers are all about, and that layer of you that is just your mind. And look for my video upcoming next, which I will do, which will just be a quick, actually I might wait. Yeah, I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to do all the meditations together after the fact. So those will be uploaded together, the meditations. But yeah, in the meantime, before we talk about spirit, take time in the rest of the week to think about your thoughts, to start to see how you process and interact with information. Not the emotions of it, not the energy of it, not how it makes your body feel or how you want to change it, but just to look at dead information as it is, data coming through you, information riding on light, and how you incorporate it and how you send it out, and what kind of filters you put on your information. And how you sort of harness it, tag it, store it. So spend some time thinking about that, and then I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me. Always find me in the meantime on Telegram, Amarie Speaks, over on Spotify, or directly on my website, amariespeaks.com. I'll talk to you next time.